Welcome to the first ever episode of The Funnel Vision, the show where we sit down with founders and operators who are in the thick of it, building revenue and growing to the next phase of their businesses without the fluff and without the fillers. Each episode, we dig into what's actually working, what isn't, and the real decisions behind real growth. This episode is brought to you by Hera Digital. If you're running a B2B business and your pipeline looks full on paper, but the numbers aren't moving, comment Gem and someone will reach out to you. Today's guest, Mr. Jacob Hammer, founder of Gemcutter, a data and dashboard consultancy building finance and operational visibility tools for businesses that need to know where their numbers are and to therefore act on them fast. Jacob started Gemcutter solo 5 years ago, grew it to a 9-person team today, and he's here today to talk about what that journey actually looks like and what it takes to break through the next plateau. Jacob, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much.
How does it feel to be the first episode of a brand new series? Jacob, first and foremost.
Hey, why not? Someone's going to be the first at some point, right? So why
Although
not
I
us?
did kind of spring it on you too about 2 minutes ago. So I'm glad you're happy to roll with the punches with us. I think what
Definitely.
that says from a business perspective is you got to roll with the punches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to dial back a couple steps and sort of let people know you started Gemcutter solo, like solo man, doing everything 5 years ago, and you've built it now today to a 9-person team, growing strong, no doubt. But what was the moment that you realized that this was going to be an actual business and not just another consulting gig?
I guess, well, day one, I suppose. I mean, I always wanted it to be an actual business. So there was that intention, but it was probably 2 years of doing freelance style of work before I was just busy enough that I thought, I need to hire somebody to just help me out with some of the, I guess, more grunt work when it came to analytics, like building pipelines and cleaning data and whatever else. And so, I hired a junior analyst who's still with me today, actually. And from there, I was like, oh, okay, well, that wasn't so bad. I can do that. And I just kept hiring until I thought, okay, it seems until the demand matched the supply, I guess. And now here we are.
It's probably important to note that I think with what you do is super unique with where we're located. So we haven't mentioned this before, but Jacob is also a Perth-based businesses, which is yay, up the Perth businesses. But I think with what you do, it's quite unique. I don't see a lot of people out there building dashboards bespoke to client needs. And I think it's one of those things where it kind of falls to the wayside and it feels like it's a nice to have rather than a need to have. But it really is the core mission control of any good business, and each business hits a wall without it. But what's your take on where that actually sits in terms of priority for most founders or most owners or directors, and where should it sit?
Yeah, right. That's an interesting question. So, all right, we find typically when you get to kind of $10 million, $15 million in revenue and you've got multiple different systems and you can't really rely on like just your month end financials anymore, that's when you really need to start looking at this stuff, especially when you've got, say, Xero and Employment Hero and some system here and a system there, and all the data's all getting pulled into manual spreadsheets, and poor Jenny in accounts is spending 2 weeks every month just to get your numbers. That's when we can come in and really help automate a lot of the process and give better visibility around what's going on. I think a lot of companies kind of limp through a lot of the time and manage just based on what the P&L says and think, oh yeah, that's about right for the month, rather than, or even just managing through whatever systems they've got and limping through with the report that's inherent in each system, but it doesn't pull the data together. What we find is our clients come to us when either they've grown really quickly and they feel out of control because they haven't got visibility of what's going on, or they've hit some sort of a challenge, like losing a major client or a cost blowout in a project or something like that. That's like a trigger to think, oh, shit, if we had visibility over this stuff and we knew what was coming, we would have been able to manage it a lot.
So I think what that tells me is when you're able to have visibility across your data as a business, it's more of a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. But it sounds like when people come to you, it's coming from a reactive standpoint. And you're like, hey, if we actually had this earlier, you may or may not have lost that client. Is that a strong statement to say?
Yeah, no, it's probably fair. I'd probably never say that to a client, but
Sometimes they need to be told. I think with any business, it comes with a slight layer of education as well.
mm-hmm,
And that's why they're coming to the experts like yourself, right, Jacob?
mm-hmm.
Now, when we look at data and dashboards, unfortunately, it's the unsexy side of business, and people don't really like to talk about it, even though it's prudent. The data and the BI space has shifted a lot in the past 5 or so years, basically around when you started. But now it's especially changing with the AI layer sitting on top of everything now. What are you seeing clients actually need? And they're coming to you saying that they think they need this versus what do they actually need when they come to you?
All right. We have a few clients that are coming to us saying, "Hey, we want to be able to chat with our data," but it's very simple use cases like, "Just tell me which my bigger transactions last month," or I don't know. They're just very simple questions, right? Which is great because AI can do that. The moment you ask it, for instance, like, "What's my production costs?" then you've got to build in all these rules around how variable costs are treated and fixed costs are treated and whatever else. And AI just it falls over and dies doesn't it struggles when you add that, and it comes up with very confident wrong answers, which is quite frustrating. So a lot of clients are experimenting with it. We haven't gotten to a point where it's like, I guess, super useful yet. Kind of a plaything, but we're working on it. Like we're working there. When we've connected Claude to Power BI, which we use both for coding for us internally, and then also we can connect it to the data models for our clients as well, and you can ask it questions and things. But I've already found that you ask it something and it doesn't actually match the numbers that you're looking at in the dashboard, even though you've asked it exactly the thing that's on the dashboard. So it does hallucinate a lot, the
It
data.
does make things up and it tries to make you feel probably better than what the situation actually is, which unfortunately means that you have to constantly update its knowledge base, but it means it's pulling data from an incorrect source, perhaps. I don't think,
Mhm,
in my opinion, I don't think AI will ever be 100%. Like it can be 99% and it will keep iterating and iterating, iterating, but it will never be 100% because it will try to outgrow itself.
mhm,
And I think when people think about AI, they think about chatbots and they think about how do I access that data more efficiently or how do I get it to give it to me the information that I want right now. And I
mhm.
think interestingly enough, from the market in which we serve together, Jacob, do you find a lot of customers are actively asking for AI or are they asking, hey, Jacob, I just want this. I don't care how you give it to me, but I just want to get that data faster, whether that's involving AI or not.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we're not seeing a lot of clients come to us and say, "Hey, we need AI over the top of our data." Like
Mhm.
that, there's some interest and some curiosity, but not must-haves yet. A lot of
Mhm.
it's like, "We need a dashboard to show us this. Can you guys go build it?" And
Mm.
whether we use AI or not, they probably don't really care. They just need the result. Yeah, so it's an interesting space at the moment. We're just seeing how it's going to evolve.
Mm. Do you have sort of like what I call guinea pig clients where we sort of do that at the moment with Heredita, like, hey, we're trying this with AI. Like, are you down to try it? They're like, yeah, sure. But there's a
Mhm.
fine line between, yeah, sure, and no, I don't understand what it does. So therefore, keep it away from my business. Do you find that there's quite a big knowledge gap between the two with what you do?
No, not really. I think, yeah, I mean, just about all of our clients could potentially be guinea pig clients if we put it out to them. Yeah, I mean, we have some clients that had some very simple requirements, and we build it, we move on, and then that's it. But our long-standing clients have evolving needs and evolving requirements, and so it's just a part of the evolution, and we're hoping to be as close to that as we possibly can be as this thing becomes more and more ubiquitous.
Mm. I think just to sort of add to that point is when I sort of think about dashboards, and I think you covered this really early on in the conversation where we have data from all different tools, but creating custom dashboards that actually pulls the data and then therefore translate the correlation between the data is really where the dashboards make a big difference from a commercial standpoint.
Hmm.
But for what we do, and I keep coming back to WO because I find it such a fascinating market. Do you find that a lot of the dashboards, I guess, of what you build for clients is within that space, within the mining and construction and manufacturing
Hmm.
space?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess we find we deliver the most value there too, because many times we find they're a little bit more I guess, not no fault of their own, obviously, but a little more immature when it comes to the systems and reporting. A lot of it is heavily spreadsheet dependent. And also we find we can just add the most value. Because typically when you can get visibility from 0 to 1 for your labor utilization, like the changes and in profit improvement opportunities that exist are generally quite material
Mm.
because they're businesses that have a lot of moving parts. And so the more you can see those parts, the more opportunities there are to create value that you couldn't see otherwise.
I think coming from a corporate travel perspective, I understand that those small bits of data, like we're literally talking about 1 or 2% improvements, and it doesn't sound like a lot. I think when people think about 1 or 2%, they're like, oh, well, that's not really material enough. But when you
Mm.
think about each silo with 1 or 2% improvement, as a profit improvement lever, it actually changes the scope of your business quite a lot, and it therefore changes the insights and therefore the decisions. And I think dashboards is not given enough credit that it deserves.
No, thank you.
Well, I certainly risk because anytime someone says spreadsheets, Jacob, I literally tense up. I'm like, oh my God, please don't tell me you're using the spreadsheets. Yes, it worked 50 years ago, but for me, my brain is visual. I can't read that.
Mhm.
Maybe your brain's different, but that's how my brain works. So now Gemcutter builds finance and operational dashboards, probably crossing over to both and marrying two dashboards. Who is your client that gets the most out of what you do? And at what stage do they usually find you?
Yeah, I mean, we typically start with like a CFO or finance function because there might be a $200 million business running off 53 different zero entities, and consolidating that into spreadsheets is very difficult, whereas we can automate that. Greater visibility and drill down into transaction level data if they need to very, very quickly. So, but then it tends to expand out into operations teams, maintenance teams, asset management teams, this is broader executives, because we find once a business starts running their business on data, as in you start all your meetings with data, you bring data to your meetings, you make decisions based on data, like the improvements, it's quite spectacular. And what else was I going to say? Yeah, like you just see the management teams rowing in the same direction in a way that they weren't before, because they're all looking at the same information on the same, every week, every day. And so it becomes very clear in terms of what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and what needs to change.
I think what I like about it though, data is essentially like numbers, right? So numbers are factual, so therefore they don't lie. But
Hmm.
small to medium businesses, very seldomly do they actually pay that close attention to their data until it's a critical point and therefore it becomes reactive, what I spoke about earlier. Because I feel like you deal with more like enterprise level where those 1 or 2% increases or improvements make a quite a significant impact from a commercial standpoint, whether that's in labor, operations, or finance. But I find it really fascinating that it's the finance people that always come to you first.
Mm. They're normally feeling the most pain, right? And they're the ones that are responsible for the board pack every single month.
Mm.
And they're the ones that are scrambling at month end to try and get the numbers aligned into all the spreadsheets and PowerPoints that are required. And as soon as you say, I'll automate that whole thing, give you a dashboard, they're like, yes, where do I sign up?
Yeah. So the finance guy is like, yep, that makes all sense to me. Whether or not we filter that out to the operations team, don't care. It matters to me. That's all that's important. And because he's the finance guy or girl,
Hmm.
you're more likely to win the job, right? But finance, I think it just makes sense because data makes sense to finance people.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
unfortunately, data just has a kind of a negative connotation. It's not cool. It's not sexy, but it's probably
Well,
time
it can
people
be
pay
quite
attention.
exposing, right? So I think a lot of our clients, there's a period of discomfort. That's the word, discomfort, when we first get these dashboards up and running, because it can be kind of like we can see actually all the things that are not going that well,
Mhm,
and so it can be quite confronting sometimes to be like, oh, I thought our asset utilization was much higher than that,
mhm.
but it's not. Or I thought we were managing our overtime well, but actually it's 15% higher than we thought it was. That then can provoke some very uncomfortable decisions that need to be made. But that's how you improve, right?
Yeah. Business growth comes from uncomfortable conversations.
Seriously.
I'm glad that your dashboards are allowing uncomfortable conversations, Jacob. But like again, you've been in this for 5 years. Has the ideal client for you shifted from when you first started? Or have you already always known who you're really building for?
No, it hasn't really shifted. I mean, yeah, I love working with mid-sized companies. So 20 to 200 million in revenue. Yeah, they're sort of big enough that they need data analytics. Like you cannot run a $200 million business, a $50 million business without it. But they're not so big as they have their own teams and analysts and everything yet. So we kind of bridge that gap and give them a full analytics team for less than it costs to hire somebody full time. So they get that capability, and in many ways, I'd argue greater capability than they would have, trying to do it in-house.
Mm. Because I think I was just about to ask you, at what point does it become easier to actually build in house?
I think it's sort of once you've matured the capability and very clear on what you need and you've got a good technical setup, because I've seen it before where clients will like task the IT guy to go and build stuff, but he's running around building servers and resetting passwords and like all the other stuff that IT guys need to do, and they never get. And so I think it's once you've got a bigger, strong enough ecosystem, so you can say, right, this does make sense to bring in house. And you could probably, I'd say, to justify hiring two people because you need to have that redundancy in place. Because a lot of analysts many times hold a lot of information in terms of how things work. And if they leave, everybody's seen that spreadsheet that Bob in finance looks after break the moment Bob leaves. And so, I mean, we make sure in Gemcutter that we have at least 2 or 3 people on every single project. So if one of my guys goes on leave, we're completely fine and we can keep operating and supporting our clients. So I think it really is for a client, if they can justify 2 full-time hires, then they're probably in a good spot.
Yeah. And I think if they're transacting at that level, they probably have already thought about it too. But I think
Mhm.
with your direct insight, that's probably a good idea. But you're sort of at a point now where you're actively working through the next phase of growth for Gemcutter. When you look at the business today, where do you see the real leverage being? Is it the offer, the process, or something else completely?
I mean, I think our offer's pretty tight. I mean, from a sales perspective, I'm not sure. I'm not expert in terms of what works to scale businesses my size to the next level because I've never done it before. But I'm trying to figure it out.
It's
I
never
mean, I
a straight
guess
road, Jacob. It's
no,
never
no,
a straight
it's
road.
really not. It's really not. I mean, I think I've come to the realization very much so that, as much as I'd love to just put ads on Facebook and, pay $1 and get $6 back, like everybody seems to think is possible, it's just not realistic in my business. It's very high touch, very high trust driven, dare I say expensive. So I think it's very much a relationship driven sales process. It always has, always will be. I mean, that's why McKinsey's and Bain's and Deloitte's and whatever all rely heavily on partner-based relationships. So, I mean, I'm leaning that into more. I've always been a pretty good relationship guy, but I haven't really systematized it or done it in a way that it's just kind of been organic, right? Like I haven't been intentional about building relationships and building that out. So that's kind of my next priority really is being more intentional about that.
I mean, at the 5-year mark, I think it's traveling healthy for
Hmm.
you to be able to have that time and the full thought to be like, okay, well, what next? Where do we go from here? So I think it's kind of serendipitous, but you headed to a scaling workshop, aka basically, is it acquisition.com? Is that safe to say, or is it direct Alex Hormozy?
Well, it's acquisition.com, right? But I mean, Hormozy was there. He didn't do the entire thing. He came in at the end. You've probably seen
Yeah,
the shorts where people stand up and ask questions and he answered it. Yeah, like
yeah,
he did that, which was cool. So, but for the most part, you know, 7/8 of it was with his team.
yeah. Was that what you were expecting? Or
Yeah, it was. It was. Yeah, yeah. I didn't expect to be able to shake, Alex's hand and sit down with him and have a heart to heart on, okay, what do I do next?
but the golden question is, did you get your question answered by Hormozy?
I didn't no, I didn't come out of it thinking like, "Yes, I got what I needed." I
Mm,
really went over there knowing that, my constraint at the moment is like, how do I scale lead generation beyond my network and who I know, in a way that is repeatable and scalable and systematized? And I went over with that sort of question in mind, knowing, I mean, Hermosa is all about ads, right? So it's just what I said before, you put in $1 and you get $6 out. Like thinking, what's the unlock for me here? Like, what am I missing in terms of an approach? I didn't really get that answered. So I sort of came back thinking, well, okay, I've been looking, looking, looking. Maybe the answer really is maybe there is not an answer for my type of business for that approach.
mhm.
I'm not selling supplements, right? I'm not selling gym memberships. So it was almost like because I didn't get the answer, I kind of got the answer, if that makes sense. I
You
was like, well,
you
I've eliminated all the stuff that doesn't work. So what does work? I'm just trying to maybe do more of that.
your brain was like, "Okay, well, if I didn't get the answer directly from him, what is the process of elimination? How do I get to that answer?"
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. There's a lot of that happening, I think. So have I unlocked the next stage to growth? I don't know yet. Time will tell. But we'll see.
I'll be interested to see Gemcutter's ads out there one day, on the
Hmm.
bus or something old school. I reckon that would be pretty cool. But
Yeah, yeah, that would be cool.
something like I was having a conversation recently with someone who's been in marketing for 20 odd years. Have you ever heard of something called a cold cake before?
No, I have not.
So basically, you deliver a cake to a business that you obviously generally want to work with, and
Hmm.
it's just a QR code on that cake. And they're like, well, what the heck is this about? And then it basically takes them straight to your landing page or a VSL. So it's
Yeah.
basically getting through the door without physically getting through the door. And I thought that was
Hmm.
really clever because it's something physical, it's something tangible,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
cool.
something outside of the book. And I was like, I wonder if that would work in the Perth market, or they'd
Yeah,
be like,
yeah.
"What is this? Are you poisoning us?" And just like leave it at the front desk.
Yeah, yeah, probably. Probably.
Maybe we should do a collab, Jacob, and see if that actually
Sure.
works. But like, if you had to leave like one thing for the audience, and this is the last question for you for your episode, is what's the one thing you wish someone had told you earlier about what it actually takes to grow past a revenue ceiling that you've sort of been sitting at for a long time?
I mean, I can't really say about now. The first revenue ceiling I hit was when it was just me, and it would be just my advice there is hire sooner than you think you need to, because I left it probably a year too late, so it delayed my growth by a year. But hey, that was the journey I was on, so I'm not going to regret it or anything. But yeah, I do have a few younger founders in my network, and yeah, when they come to me saying, "What do I do?" I say, "Look, if you can afford it, hire somebody as soon as you can."
Mhm. Especially with sort of building anything building to do with a lot of laborious type tasks. I think I was on the opposite end. I think I maybe hired too soon,
Mm.
which not a bad thing because now that person's grown to be an exceptional person for Hero Digital. But at the start, I was a bit like, oh, this is probably a little too premature. But
Yeah, yeah,
I had big growth plans, Jacob. I wanted to grow and I wanted to grow fast. So
yeah, yeah,
but it's funny because we're the shoes on the opposite end of the foot. We almost came to the same conclusion, just in reverse.
yeah. Right, right.
But I think to add to your point is I would every single step or decision you make in business is a learning curve, whether you realize it at the time or not, or a year later.
Mhm,
And I think it's
mhm.
super important to actually point these smaller things out as you're growing as a business. But for anybody that's out there listening and wants to hit up Jacob and prove to him it's not all about relationships and referrals, his direct links will be in the show notes below. Or if you would like me to make a warm introduction to him, please let me know. But Jacob, it's been such a grounded and honest conversation. And I think founders at every stage are going to look to take something real from this conversation. But in the meantime, keep building meaningfully and thank you for joining us today, Jacob.
Thanks so much.